Well, good morning and welcome to another segment of the Newstalk WTIM Morning Show, heard here on the Big 870 AM, Newstalk WTIM, 96.1 FM in Christian County and 107.5 FM in Shelby County. Our guest here in studio for this segment, Dr. Gregg Fuerstenau, who is Superintendent of the Taylorville School District, and it's a good morning, Dr. Fuerstenau, because you guys got paid.
Well, you know, we had our board meeting on Monday night, and I did report to the board that, you know, we are monitoring the situation regardless of the categorical payments, but we are expecting 2 general state aid payments, and I indicated Monday night that we hadn't received that payment yet. And, you know, due to the situation in Illinois in the comptroller's office with the lack of funding, one had to begin to think about, well, is it going to be a late payment or maybe not payments at all?
Right.
But I'm happy to report that yesterday morning it did show up in the bank account, which is good. And then we only have one more general state aid payment to collect, you know, by the end of the month in terms of that. But, you know, we'll see what happens at the end of the month. But we're really not anticipating getting the last of the budgeted categorical payments from the state this year, and that would put us 3 payments behind for this year, and potentially looking at the next fiscal budget being with the state owing us 7 categorical payments.
Yeah, I was going to say I know our new news guy Kyle's been doing those meetings, but the last one I went to, I remember it was something like 5 or 6 potential payments being behind, if not more. So, you know, still not out of the woods yet, but it's good to see at least a payment coming through.
Well, the general state aid payments are critical to us. You know, those 2 payments represent $700,000 to the district, and those are the last 2 payments for this year. So we're pleased to see that those funds arrive, because that just helps us in terms of our closing position June 30th.
Yeah, and you know, that's something I've talked with some other people around the state about, is that, you know, there seems to be a little bit of a misconception as far as, you know, maybe some of the downstate schools, why they're struggling. And, you know, I've been trying to say, look, I know here in Taylorville, it's really been that state aid. That's really been hurting the school district.
Well, I've indicated too in this, Michael, that'd be a good lead into where we're going with Senate Bill 1. I've been a very strong advocate of working with the legislative leaders in our area and throughout the state, indicating the fact that, look, as we look to fiscal year 18, I don't want to lose any money, okay, that we shouldn't receive less money than we've gotten from the state this year, but pay me what you owe me for categoricals, and let's start there first. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where school districts are at. The pressure has come by not receiving categorical payments, primarily in the form of special education and transportation. That's caused some budget angst for districts that maybe don't have a rainy day fund that can absorb that till those payments come in, or they had to budget all 4 payments in order to make their budget work this year, where Taylorville only budgeted 1 from last year and 2 from this year. So we left 2 out intentionally out of a budget, not anticipating getting those funds. But that's really the basis point for our conversation about Senate Bill 1. I do want to clear up that last year when they put in a hold harmless element for school districts, and Taylorville received a little over $300,000 for that, that was important. We did not lose general state aid. We actually got the same plus a little extra money as we started this year. When they did that, the formula was essentially blown up, okay? It's an irrelevant formula that they have because they moved away from everything that they had done in the past. So that was going to be hopefully the starting point for Senate Bill 1, and it was very clear in the inception that people, when this school funding reform came out, no district should lose money. Okay, period. So they worked through the process this year, and how many task force do we need to have? Okay, I mean, really, that's what it boils down to, right? Because the Senate had a task force several years ago that Senate Menard led a bipartisanship situation. Then the governor comes back, puts in another task force, and then Speaker Madigan puts together a House task force committee. I mean, we have studied and studied and studied this, and we always come up with the same conclusions. We have the most inequitable funding system in the nation, and we're not adequately funding the one that we funding schools, period. So this concept of sitting around and having this discussion, you can have that till the cows come home. And are you going to have the perfect piece of legislation? No, that's not how it works to get it correct. But I do think that the governor's office and the Secretary of Education, Dr. Purvis, came out and said they like 90% of the bill. Well, if you like 90% of the bill, that's a win, right?
Right.
I mean, geez, it's good for kids, right? So I think that's the discussion point we have to have. And I think the folks that came up with Senate Bill 1, whether that be Senator Menard or Representative Davis, there is discussion about that. No, it's not perfect, okay? But it is a whole lot better than what we've had in the past. And I think those are the discussion points that need to take place with that situation. And the point is that as the Taylorville superintendent, Taylorville is going to get an additional $314,000. In our district area down here that represents Senator Menard and Representative Bourne, it's over $3.8 million. Well, I can tell you what will happen if they go back to the 6119 or the old formula, and they revert back to that, and they take that hold harmless money away from it. You're going to see a whole lot of red numbers coming in for school districts in our area, because of the fact that they've reverted back to a formula that is irrelevant, and it would add really further stress to school districts' budgets.
Right, and that's one thing is that there was a lot of scrutiny, I know, with the referendum as far as the Taylorville school district's budget and how the school district is budgeted. But just taking a look at the numbers, you guys have really budgeted about as well as you can. I mean, outside of absolutely gutting the school system, you guys are sort of, it seems like, at that point to where, I mean, really at the end of the day, you need that funding.
Well, the state is such a partner because, as we've indicated, that we receive 46% locally and 46% from the state and 8% from the Fed. So it's kind of a 50-50 situation, right? Mm-hmm. So, and we indicated all along that, and I've indicated this with our legislators, is that the Taylorville district, albeit raised their taxes significantly, and we're grateful for the voters within our educational communities that they agreed to do that. To help us maintain a quality education for our kids. But you can't just do it alone locally. We just don't have the resources to do that. The state does have to step up and start doing some things with that situation. So that's why we're really monitoring Senate Bill 1. I did provide some information to the Board of Education on fact sheets with Senate Bill 1. But I think at the end of the day, you have to look at what is best for the kids of Illinois, and I'm talking all kids. And there is quite a bit of discussion about the Chicago public school system. Well, you know what? They represented a third of the population. They have the highest poverty count of any district in the state of Illinois. And a poor student in Chicago is the same as a poor student in Taylorville, Illinois, and it should be treated that way. Mm-hmm. Or a student in the Chicago public school system and a student in the Taylorville school district should be treated the same way. And, you have to have a starting point. And, we can't live in a fantasy land and just all of a sudden ignore the Chicago public school system. That's not how it works. But there's been a great deal of discussion and a great deal of thought processes that go into this. And if we can do better for the kids in Taylorville, then we need to move forward with this bill. If we do nothing and go back to the status quo, there's nothing good going to happen in terms of state funding for the district. They're actually going to go back to a 6119 formula, and we know how that works and where that's at. But on the flip side of that our legislators and our governor need to start stepping up to the plate and quit bickering and blaming each other. The Senate did pass a budget. It's time for the House to take that budget up. It's time for the governor to step up and be part of these discussions. We can no longer afford to just sit around and blame the other side for lack of doing something or lack of cooperation. It's time for those folks to get over it and get a budget passed for the state of Illinois, because that's good for all the people in Illinois and the children in Illinois.
Wonderful. And, there's some other things going on, too, at the Taylorville School District, and I want to talk to you about those coming up next year on this segment of the Newstalk WTIM Morning Show, streamed online at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.